Trading in the offseason of Dynasty Fantasy Football is easily the #1 best way to create a seriously unfair roster to go undefeated in the 2025 season, but the key is to start today and start early and exploit all of the information you can only find that people put behind paywalls. Lucky for you, I'm going over everything 100% free on this channel all year round. If you do appreciate that and want to show your generosity support to the channel, please go down and hit that like button, possibly even subscribe. I promise I will make this video worth your time, just like I do on the redraft channel as well. But while you do that, let's go ahead and get started with a baseline of what we need to understand on how to trade in the NFL offseason, because it is completely different from in-season fantasy football. The first thing to understand is that dynasty trading is a value game, and almost every single player is available if they are at the right price, and you have to understand that everybody's open to trade. If you try to trade solely on player takes and who's hot right now, you aren't going to find true success, and almost nobody, pretty much a guarantee of nobody, can be 100% right all the time on all of their takes. So with that being said and understood that nobody is off limits, the second tip here is to be creative with the offers that you send. You don't have to send a running back to get a running back, or a running back to get a wide receiver. You can send a tight end or a quarterback and a couple picks to get a running back. It can be as complicated or as simple as you want it to be. Just make sure you keep in mind and take into account the opposing team's roster. You want to be making their team as best as possible, or at least looks like it's getting as good as possible, and you don't need to be sending one-for-one offers at the same position. That's a big no-no in dynasty trades. There's no point to move laterally, trading one wide receiver to get another, because the whole point of trading is to be getting an edge somewhere, whether that's more picks, more upside in the future, or just getting depth, upgrading at a position. And when you're trading laterally, you're essentially just doubling down on your take that that guy is going to outperform the other in their entire NFL career time frame. That's very hard to do. You also need to put an emphasis on player data outside of fantasy football. By that I mean contracts, negative news, positive news, trends, coaching changes. Lucky for you, again, on this channel I will go over everything all year. Please go through and hit that like button for me and subscribe if you do value that. But with that being said, let's get into the players here we should be buying on all of our dynasty leagues, despite the size. Our first being Marvin Harrison Jr., and I cannot express this enough. Yes, he's a really good player in theory, but a lot of people are starting to have mixed opinions on what he's going to look like and transition into being for the rest of his NFL career. After a very disappointing season we just saw, most people are dragging his value down a lot more because of how high he was being drafted and how highly touted he was in the beginning of the year in the first place from last season. If he was ranked accurately in that time frame, which in my opinion even back then would have been a lot lower than what it was, he wouldn't be classified as this much of a quote-unquote disappointment, because he wouldn't be falling as far. Recency bias is lethal in dynasty fantasy football trades, and it was 100% real. The way players finish out the season as well causes a very big overreaction. Marv finished with 17.3 fantasy points and a great second half against the 49ers in his last game this year in week 18, but 15.6 before that, 7.9, and then 5.2 fantasy points in those following games right before then. So he is the definition of a safe faller and value that is almost guaranteed to go up at this point. His rookie year, by the way, at only 22 years old, he finished as the wide receiver 34, averaging 51.4 yards per game. That is good for the wide receiver 41. These are not good numbers, but he was the wide receiver 10 in air yards at 93.5 per game, and he saw the #1 most double coverage out of any rookie wide receiver in the NFL this year. Well, I guess it was last year, but you get the point. His value is also very insulated because of his draft capital. The 4th pick overall that the Cardinals took him at is very, very safe. He's the ex-wide receiver. That is the role that he has. At his age, they're going to build around him at the very least. There is a good amount of rookie wide receivers, though, that didn't produce in their rookie seasons that turned into amazing fantasy football values. But when you have guys like Brian Thomas Jr. finishing as the wide receiver 4, Malik Neighbors finishing as the wide receiver 6, and even Puka Nacua a few years ago in his rookie year setting a bunch of records, it's making Marvin Harrison look like that much worse of a fantasy value. Again, dynasty isn't played on a 1 to 2 year basis. We have these expectations in 3, 4, 5 even year windows. The second he starts playing a little bit good next season, strings together a few good games, he's going to be absolutely untouchable, and his value is going to be through the roof. Looking at this year's rookie class from what we have in expected mock drafts, I would be okay sending a 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th overall pick to get Marvin Harrison on my team with whatever else it would take to get him. But we are going to be getting Rome Odunze very easily. He made this list. Another example of a safe, insulated player, a sophomore wide receiver, didn't produce in his first year with the Bears, finished as the wide receiver 47, but the Bears just invested a very high pick on him, again, like Marvin Harrison, as well as Caleb Williams, 2 players that are very young, also a little bit unproven, that are going to get better with time. We know they're going to be the backbone of this franchise. On top of that draft capital, though, there are some good underlying metrics pointing his way. His very first year, the second he touches the field, he's playing over 80% of the snaps despite being a wide receiver 3 on his own team behind Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. He also led the team though in unrealized air yards and was number 2 in the entire NFL in that statistic despite not finishing very well on the year, all things considered. Now, Caleb Williams wasn't a super accurate quarterback by any means. You can blame some of that on the offensive line and the coaching, do what you want with that. So it didn't turn into realized yards on that case, but for a wide receiver 3, that baseline and statistics are going to be there. Those metrics are 100% validating his upside and potential in the NFL. He was 11th in deep targets. His ADOT was also 11th. He was 10th in red zone target rate. He was also one of the best wide receivers in contested catch rate on the year as well. Again, all of these success metrics are absolutely amazing. You know, I'm a guy that loves efficiency. Yes, they don't translate to fantasy points just yet, but with a strong team coming off an underwhelming season, you can expect it probably won't get any lower for Rome Odunze. And because we have the chance of Keenan Allen possibly leaving this team after the year, he could step up as the number 2, possibly even number 1 behind DJ Moore or next to DJ Moore. I see Allen's chances of returning to this team and us getting the exact same fantasy production from Rome in back-to-back 2 years in a row as pretty low, but trading in Dynasty Fantasy Football is a little bit tricky because nobody really knows what a player's value is going to be in 2 to 3 years from now, but it lets us be able to buy low on the unknown of players, and that's where you get the insane upside and skyrocketing value that helps you win leagues for a long time to come. And this situation reminds me a lot of what we had with JSN. Good job security, good draft capital. We look at him in detail more specifically. JSN finished as the wide receiver 48 in his rookie year, disappointing a lot of fantasy football managers and especially people that drafted him very high. And we had the chance to buy low on him, knowing that Lockett was out of the door soon. He's getting older, even DK is getting up there. And then he comes out last season in his sophomore year, finishes as the wide receiver 7, has an amazing season, only 1 year difference. This looks very, very similar. The same offensive situation. There's a lot of pass volume for both of these teams. There's a little bit of wide receiver competition. I'm buying low on Rome Odunze where I possibly can, but another player that his value is nowhere near what it should be, and I will stand on a hill for this, is going to be Brandon Ayuk. I stick by this one. The first and obvious red flag here is going to be him coming off a very big injury. The ACL tear is nothing to be played with. The 49ers also had a really bad season, finishing 6-11, the bottom of their division. But we do know Brandon Ayuk, no matter what happens in this offense, he's going to have that job security. He's going to be the wide receiver 1 regardless of what happens. Also, with that contract extension in place, it backs that statement. George Kittle is also 31. He's not getting any younger. The contract extension that the 49ers gave Ayuk is clearly showing us he is the guy moving forward, and he's extremely talented. We know that to be a fact. For the same reason, I'm also going to be sneakily looking at Ricky Pearsall to be getting on my team for a very low value. Juwan Jennings is turning 28 this year. He's getting a little bit older. It could be a spot to go get a rookie / sophomore coming into this year. That could be a lottery ticket for you. But another wide receiver though, with a similar situation, we need to be sending offers for drafting if you're in a startup here, is going to be Chris Olave, another guy that is going to instantly turn you off. Okay, relax. We're not talking about that, but still, it makes sense, and I understand why. He played 8 games this year. He finished as the wide receiver 92. He's been concussed for the 11,000th time, and he is only 24 years old. So there is a ton of concern with his longevity for the season. Like, he might not play another 10 years. We don't exactly know that, but that's exactly why we can go through and aim to get him at the lowest value possible. He's being drafted at a 6th round ADP in startups right now, and we know he is talented. Just 2 years ago, when he was fully healthy, he was the wide receiver 4 in air yards at 114.6 per game, the wide receiver 7 in target share, and 4th in deep targets per game, with essentially the exact same offense that he's playing with right now. Now, I understand the Saints is not a great offense. It's not one you typically want to be buying in on. They are struggling. They don't necessarily have a bunch of quarterback success locked up for the future, but it is an impossible situation for him to lose value. The only way that Chris Olave can go down in value is if a concussion happens again. Now, obviously, that is technically a chance, but he has the entire offseason. This team was just 5-12 in the NFC South. Absolutely terrible, finishing worse than the Panthers, at least in points for situations. I promise when the summer comes back up around, he's automatically going to be valued higher just because of his name value. But with a player like this, he's also at a higher chance of getting stuck on your roster. If you do get him on your team, a lot of people, if they are not casuals in Dynasty Fantasy Football, are not just going to want to take that risk on him. So if you do get him, just know that you're going to have that little bit of risk. You might not be able to move him again if you are playing that value game of trading people back and forth. But I do still believe in his ability to be a very, very good fantasy football option. He just signed his 4-year contract extension in 2022. Maybe he even gets moved in the next few years to a new team, and that would be even better for him because it's not like the Saints situation is amazing. But don't overpay for him. Just understand how good his value is, and and how high it can be. He is a risky lottery ticket. If he does hit, he's going to be very good for you for a long time to come. But that's going to finish out this video. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this trade one. I will see you guys in the next video coming soon. All glory to the man above.